Social entrepreneur Jeremy Chen has started, sold and closed a few businesses in his day, but it's his tie business that he started that's most interesting. When people stopped wearing ties a few years ago, he had to decide whether to shut up shop, grind it out or pivot. Fortunately, a last-minute order from one special customer made the decision for him.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing ridiculousness. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Today's 442nd episode is made possible thanks to the good guys at American Express and Design Crowd. And guess what? Big show today. Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. Serial entrepreneur Jeremy Chen talks about the numerous businesses he started and the pivot he made with his last one that led to a $6 million payoff. I announced the overall winner of this year's Monster Prize Draw, who wins a lazy $3,000 worth of goodies. And this week's Jingle of the Week, I love it. It's just in time for the long, hot Aussie summer. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Okay, let's meet serial entrepreneur Jeremy Chen, who's started, sold and closed quite a few businesses in his day. But the one that caught my attention was how he started a retail business selling ties, then quickly faced a perfect storm of disasters, including the global financial crisis, people stopping wearing ties, and his warehouse burning down. That is a perfect storm of disasters. Now, under these circumstances, he had every reason to capitulate, to throw in the towel. Instead, Jeremy successfully pivoted the business into a branded merchandise business, thanks to one special customer who walked into his tie shop one day and made an order that changed everything. I started off by asking Jeremy what he loved about business.
My favourite thing, Tim, is actually I'm the creative side of my business partnership, and I like the idea creation and sort of taking a concept from, something that frustrates me. I know it's very cliche, but something that frustrates me and sort of trying to see an opportunity in it and seeing, trying to weigh up the pros and cons and whether or not we can take something to market that will address that, that pain point, I guess.
I don't think that's cliched at all, Jeremy. I think that's really interesting. I mean, I think the creative side of business is incredibly exciting. So give us an idea. Boom, boom. Give us, paint a picture of what that process looks like for you. Is it as simple as you experience a problem in your personal or business life and go about solving it? Or what's it look like?
To be absolutely honest, a lot of the personal ones that I come up with, everyday problems that everyone faces aren't actually ones that sort of make it to market. Personally, I feel, I love, everyone has a million ideas, and quite often, they don't have legs. They're nice to have, but they're probably not things that people would pay money for, I think. So we go through the process. My business partner and I quite often sit down and the number of times we've registered businesses or domain names because we've had great ideas. We've literally got about 100 domain names, and funnily enough, they're all kind of probably worth something. But we've registered, I think, 5 or 6 PTY companies over the years, and kind of started with things and thought, look, wait a second, maybe this isn't as great as this. And inevitably, which is and something I can go into great lengths about, is we almost always revert back to what we know will work and kind of what we're currently working on. Yes. Because I think we certainly don't believe that you spread yourself too thin. Well, not at our size anyway.
I'm with you, mate. I think I at one point I had about 250 domain names. I was GoDaddy's best friend, and you just get a bit excited, right? I mean, for me, it was a few years ago when there was still some available, and I have sold them off. But it's an exciting time. You've kind of got to have a little bit of put a reality check on it, don't you? Otherwise, you can be off chasing bright shiny objects.
Absolutely. And look, I've actually had a really interesting story. I'll just tell you in a nutshell. I was seated next to an older gentleman on a flight from Melbourne to Sydney once, and we're talking, and it was an interesting, he was a very good listener, I can give you that. And at the end of it, he gave me his card and he said, "Stay in touch." And I turned over his business card. It was the chairman of the ASX, the current chairman of the ASX. And we talked we actually shared a car. Well, he gave me a lift home in Sydney, and I told him about my dilemma. I said, I've got this great pie in the sky idea. It's game changing, involved drones and this and that, and this was 2 years ago. But I said, problem is, I've got my core business, which is going really well and it's growing rapidly. It's bread and butter. It's not, it's probably not nearly as sexy or appealing or exciting, but it's it's a bird in hand. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was really great validation for him to say, look, he said to me, "Jeremy, you've made the right move. You got to have, you got to go with what works. You can do your pot shots later." But it was validating for me. It made me feel really good that we didn't drop everything we did effectively and have a pot shot. I think it's it was very reaffirming for us.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I might have looked at the chairman of the ASX and gone, well, you're not a small business owner. You're probably quite conservative in the way you go about things. Whatever you say, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I think one part of me always says, I could have been that, everyone, you never know how blue the sky is. You could have gone big and gone to Silicon Valley and this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I think, I'm a bit of a realist as well. And just having someone of his kind of standing,
yes,
validate that was made me feel better about potential lost opportunities.
Can you share what the drone idea was?
Yeah, definitely. It was basically I'm a pretty keen drone enthusiast, and I kind of felt that it was very difficult for people, and still is very difficult for people to take drone videos or aerials of themselves in like landmark positions. So call it Sydney Harbour Bridge. You say you're a tourist. Taking a photo at this kind of place is a good thing, but having an epic flyover with you included in it is, game changing. It's much more interesting on your Instagram feed or your Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just basically a model which would allow that, using technology which coincidentally, once we dug deep, isn't really invented yet. So that's probably the main stumbling block. Would probably require $1 million to develop it.
Right. Well, $1 million these days, hey. Everyone's walking around that with their, well, at least they own houses of that value, maybe not cash in pocket.
Exactly.
Let's just go through just summarise each one of the businesses that you have started and why you started it.
Oh, how long have you got, Tim?
Oh, is there that many? My research tells me there was only about 4.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a decent story behind each one, and that's certainly they're measured in years, most of them.
Well, I think what's really interesting, and then I'm not looking for a shopping list, and nor are my listeners, but I think what's interesting is, why did you start it, and why did you close it? Because right now you've just got the one business, so the others are obviously closed, right?
Yes, kind of. Technically they're still open, but they're not, turning over anything substantial. Yeah, definitely. Well, look, the first one, which is still, for me, I think for everyone will tell you the same thing. The first one's always the most exciting. And what had actually happened was my business partner and I finished studying IT, and we're working in the IT world, and we're both doing reasonably well for 24-year-olds in the IT corporate world. And at the same time, we'd meet up after work once a week, and it wasn't our calling. And I think a lot of people, can identify with that.
Yes.
They're like, I can't see myself sitting facing computers 5 days a week for the rest of my life.
Hey, Jeremy, there's a lot of people sitting in cubicles saying they can't do this for the rest of their life, and they're dying to do what you do, which is to have a business idea and take it to market.
Yeah. Well, I think how we did it realistically is how I'd certainly recommend for people to do it, and that is literally get on a Skype at 6 p.m. most nights after we got home from work, and literally work till midnight and do a second shift starting this online business. And what we realised at the time, it seems silly to say it now, but in 2006, digital cameras were a really big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody was just buying memory cards like crazy, like these compact flash cards and SD cards. And the memory was a big kind of online thing, and it was traded a lot online. And we saw an opportunity for that, and we literally just created a website using OS Commerce. We kind of had enough basic knowledge to get it going. Put 10 memory cards on there, switched on some Google ads.
Love it.
And you know what? It's amazing. The reason why it was so good, Tim, is because you literally turn on your ads, and 5 minutes later, you'd get a little,
Ka-ching.
email ka-ching, yeah, and we'd be like, wow, we just sold a $150 memory card. And would you believe it or not, in our first 12 months of trading, doing that, whilst, doing it on the side, so I'd come home from work and ship orders out of my living room. I think we almost cracked $1 million. It was
Good on you.
Which was kind of big. Like, it was a big deal for us back then.
Mate, that's a big deal now for anyone. That's a great story.
Yeah, well, you know what? We were so excited about it, and every night, come home and check. There was 5 orders or 6 orders waiting, and we branched out from there. We did, other electronics, digital cameras, all these other things, but the core kind of profitable product line was memory cards because they were small, they had decent margins, etc., etc. But the big thing that we learned from this was, firstly, after a year. By the way, I think we started with $5,000 each seed money that we put in. After, I think it was $800,000 or $900,000 turnover and a years of doing this, we looked at our bank balance and it was still, I think it was like, say, $4,000 and we had $10,000 in stock.
Ooh,
so we turned over a whole bunch of money and we had nothing to show, but we weren't paying ourselves. So we were like, look, it might have been a bit more than that, but it certainly wasn't even enough to pay us $3 an hour or whatever it would have been.
What did you do wrong?
What did we do right was probably more the answer, but I think it was certainly a case of people underestimate. We underestimate that. You have to count your time. I mean, if you're not spending your time doing it, then you're paying someone to do it, right? Yeah. So that's every day of the week we lost, probably $100,000 that year.
It's an interesting learning that I don't think anywhere near enough business owners account for their time. They factor in everything else, hard costs, all that stuff, other people's costs.
Exactly.
And leaving out your time can actually kind of make the bottom line look pretty good when you factor it in.
Absolutely. And look, what it came down to was we said, all right, we've been doing this for a year. Why don't we have, anything to show for it? And we had a look, and our gross margin was, say, 10%, call it 10%. We made $80,000. Then we looked at our Google invoices for the last 12 months, and it was $90,000. We're like, oh, okay, that's where it is. I mean, if you're paying for all your advertising.
So, Jeremy, have you managed to? I want to hear about the other businesses because that's a good story in itself. Have you managed to harness that feeling of the first business, bottle it, and carry it forward into the other businesses to current day?
I think yes, to a certain extent, but it's still not the same. It's kind of like your first car, right? You're still sentimental about it.
Your first anything, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think where we went from there is actually was the next learning stage again, and it's been quite incremental for us. I'd like to say that we were geniuses and we learned from that and turned our lives around. But so we sat down again, Tim, and we were like, okay, where are we going wrong here? And we thought, look, the margins aren't good enough for resellers, and we sourced as well as we could, but there just wasn't enough in it. So at the same time, we're still working in the corporate world, mind you. I went to the Canton Fair, the big trade fair in China, that literally where you can source anything and everything that's that China makes, which is everything. And look, I was browsing around, and I just remember I was so green. I was like, what? I'd go past a vendor that had smoking monkeys, and I'd be like, we need to import these smoking monkeys. There's a market for this.
Australia needs smoking monkeys.
Exactly. And literally everything was, I would have taken thousands of photos, got thousands of business cards and catalogs, and I came back with a luggage full of it, and I just didn't know where to start. And, that's the same, I guess, naivety that, most people have when they start. You can sell anything, but can you sell it, with a profit? And, what's your sales channels? How are you going to go to market and that sort of thing? And look, I ran it by my business partner and a few things. And look, we took the easy thing and probably the only thing we knew. When he thought, look, we wear ties to work every day. There's this really cool tie factory, and they've got cool designs, and we can come up with some cool designs. And we ran with ties.
That's what you got from the Canton Fair.
Yeah, ties and cufflinks and shirts.
Just on that, I'm interested to know, why did you take off to the Canton Fair? You thought, bugger it, I'm going to go on a holiday to China and whilst I'm there, visit the fair and come back with some business ideas?
Yeah, it was a combination of things actually, Tim. So my family have been in business. They're traders. They've been importers for at least 1 or 2 generations, and I've heard about this big bad fair for many years from my father and my brother and that sort of thing. And they're in the food game, but I thought, I have no real interest in following their footsteps. So I thought, look, combination. It was my first major overseas trip by myself. So it's certainly adventure inspired, you could say. And it's definitely, I thought, if you can mix business with a holiday, that's still kind of my favourite sort of trip.
Just briefly paint a picture of the Canton Fair, because I've heard stories about it. I mean, I don't think there's nothing compares to it in Australia. Just how big is it?
Look, the way I like to put it in the scale is there's a main grand hall, which is Melbourne. If you take Melbourne Exhibition Centre, which people think is quite big, and if you times it by 20, and then you put a second floor, because they're usually 2 or 3 floors. That's one of the phases, and there's 4 phases. So you can literally walk for 1 month every day without stopping and be quick, and you won't get through everything. It's
one of those things you'd have to walk in with intention. You'd have to walk in with an objective, and clearly you didn't. You were just gobsmacked when you saw the smoking monkeys. You're like, we made it. We found it.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, I went there with open mind, and I came back. It was really just like the draw. What do we buy, right? So Tim and I looked at each other, and we were like, we spend $80 or $60 or $100 on a necktie. These things are costing us anywhere between $3 and $8 we were licking our lips. We thought, wow, we're making $90 a time. But, that was the second mistake we made, really.
Okay, so explain that business, because that wasn't the most... That's a business that's led you into what you're doing now, which we'll come to. But didn't you have a frozen foods business and an electronics business?
Yes. So at the time, actually, the food business, the frozen foods business, was actually a... kind of came out as a result of the failed Thai business. So that was towards the end of that.
Okay.
When we were struggling quite a bit, and our backs were up against the wall, and we were really looking at, basically trying to get a solid run on the board. Being, I think we were mid to late 20s at that point, 28 to 29, and we were thinking, okay, we need a sure winner here. We need something that will put dollars in the bank. So basically, I had spoken to my brother, who's currently still in the frozen food game. He came up with the idea, but we sort of developed the idea of a chain of stores where people would go for frozen foods, like a specialist frozen food retailer.
Oh, yeah.
And so we basically signed our first lease in Sydney Road, Brunswick, and Aldi was still kind of a bit of a novelty and new then. We thought we were onto a jackpot of a winner, because we'd signed a lease 2 doors down from a new Aldi on Sydney Road. Mm-hmm. So what had happened was Tim and I, we thought, okay, we're going to take the first of these, franchises, or the master franchise. We would run this. And, we had retail experience at that point, or so we thought we did, in a different category. And we saw the potential. I mean, food is a totally different market. And to be honest, we were quite disillusioned with discretionary spending, which is where we came from. One day everyone's buying your product, next day they don't need it. Mm-hmm. So from our perspective, it was like, people have to eat. Food is food. And, it wasn't luxury or high-end foods we're doing. We're doing staple foods like fish and seafood and snack foods. So commonly eaten frozen foods. You call it your spring rolls, your dumplings, your, frozen fish, frozen prawns, that sort of thing. And it's quite complementary also to the Aldi offering. And it's a high pedestrian sort of thoroughfare on the main road there. And look, we did it for a year, and I guess it was very similar to the margin issue we're having. So look, the sales were good, but it probably taught us a lesson in terms of, to operate a store or operate an online store, whatever the case may be, you need to factor in paying at least a couple of wages, unless you intend to be an owner operator. So I guess once we paid effectively 1.5 to 2 people's wages, there wasn't a lot left in it after that. So there was no profit after that.
Being the trend so far, Jeremy, is that you're an ideas guy. You love coming up with the next big thing.
Yep.
I'm guessing Tim, is that your brother, your business partner?
Business partner, no.
Business partner.
University friend, yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing he has a more kind of rational view of the world. Would that be fair? Or are you both ideas guys? Because it doesn't sound like you sort of crunch too many numbers or do too much research.
That's right. It certainly sounds that way. I'm seeing that now as well. He's certainly the pragmatic guy, and in our current business, that's what he's all about. He's all about getting the numbers, getting the sales on the board, and making sure we hit our targets.
I want to get back to the Thai business now, but I'm interested to understand what role marketing played in those businesses. Was it a critical component? Was it an overlooked component?
To be fair, I think it certainly wasn't overlooked. We'd always been quite heavily invested in the pay-per-click spending ever since 2006, which was kind of relatively early in the grand scheme of things. And I think what we underestimated certainly is what percentage that is as a chunk of your sales. We've always constantly had pay-per-click campaigns going. Organically, we've done quite well, but I think realistically, I heard a saying recently in regards to marketing, and I don't know word for word, but something along the lines of advertising is the price you have to pay for being boring.
I like that.
And that really resonated with me because if I'm being brutally honest with myself, I don't feel like, you see beautiful advertising campaigns all the time, but a lot of my purchasing anyway, a lot of most people's purchasing isn't that they see an ad and buy something, they'll hear of something. And these are before the Instagram days, you have to kind of create some kind of commotion, and, the best brands, do it without necessarily spending, a percentage of their margin or their percentage of their profits. So
if you need anything designed and you don't have a huge budget, then you're going to love Design Crowd. And I mean like anything designed. There's a list on their homepage of 60 categories of things small businesses need designed, from stationery, logos, merch, we all love a bit of merch, labels, social media pages, ads, ebooks, book covers, the list goes on and on and on. And Design Crowd gives you access to designers, like 500,000 designers from Sydney to London and everywhere in between. And it's so simple to use. Here's what you do. You post a brief describing your design need. Within hours, you'll receive your first design, and over the next 3 to 10 days, a typical project will receive 60 to 100 different designs from designers everywhere. You then pick your favourite design, make any changes, pay the designer. And you don't pay them a whole lot, let me tell you. And I'm going to make it even cheaper for your first design. All you need to do is go to designcrowd.com/Timbo and you'll get $100 off your first brief. That's designcrowd.com/Timbo and you'll get $100 off your first brief. We're chatting with Jeremy Chen, the founder of BePromotive, a business we'll get to in a minute, and a number of other businesses, as we are finding out. Jeremy, you're in China, Canton Fair. You've decided it's ties. We're doubling down on ties. So you come back with a sea crate container. That would be there'd be a lot of ties. But you come back with a lot of ties. What do you do with them?
We were literally staring. I think we didn't do a whole container, luckily, but we did, 2,000 ties our first order. We're staring at them. And the funny thing in hindsight is we had zero plans to sell them on how to sell them when they arrived. I just remember staring at these boxes with my business partner and saying, all right, let's move these things.
Hang on, let me just to be clear. You bought 2,000 ties. They were between $3 and $8 each. Let's call it 5. So you got 2,000 of 5. There's $20,000 tied up in ties, which you didn't know what to do with?
Mm-hmm. Correct. So I think it's very much a case of what do they say? So take a step first, then then just shoot first, aim later. Ready, fire, aim. Yeah.
Yes.
And we were just so pumped about this product because we were tie wearers ourselves. We thought everyone wants these ties.
How good could the product have been? Isn't a tie?
Oh, Tim, you got to look in your wardrobe and see if you've got a tied up tie, and you'll understand.
Mate, I don't own a tie.
Oh. Mate, you must have been given one, mate, because we sold, a couple of 100,000 in our time, I reckon.
So they arrived back on Australian shores. What did you do? E-commerce, go and take a shop in Collins Street, Melbourne, or Macquarie Street, Sydney? I don't know. What did you do?
Yeah, well, so our only plan at that point was, we thought we knew online pretty well. So we had, tied-up.com.au, we had a brand, we had pay-per-click campaigns we had photos that we put up. But the problem back then is that online shopping was, it's probably like 10% of what it was now. Like, people would never buy online. I think at our peak, we were doing about 10 orders a week. So certainly not, anything to write home about. No. You put on your 2006 hat now, you'll remember that everyone bought things in shops. And, we were all about shopping, and, we thought, what shopping centres do we hang out at? Where can we get casual leases at? All that sort of thing. And we started, as a lot of great businesses do, in these sort of pop-up sort of market stalls. Mm-hmm. Not even pop-ups, because pop-ups imply you have a lease. We had a couple of trestle tables with tablecloths on them. So I remember it clearly. We signed up with, I think it was Challenger, the property group. They had casual leases at Jam Factory in South Yarra. and Century City Walk in Glen Waverley. And what I'd do is I'd take my 100 tyres and I'd go down to Glen Waverley every Saturday afternoon, and Tim would do the equivalent in South Yarra, and put our tyres out there and see who'd come up.
So many people I've spoken to over the years have done that, which gives you a proof of concept, starting in whether it be a farmer's market or a car boot sale market. I mean, even the girls who started Spell on the Gypsy Collective, which is now a burgeoning $30 million a year business in Byron Bay, started in a car park in Byron Bay selling from the back of their boot. And it is great proof of concept, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds crazy to think about it now, but people were nuts about our product. Like, we had I think it was one tile was $40, two was 73 for 100 or something around that mark. And we'd laid all these tables out, and they came in these little gift boxes, and we would have people come up. At the start, they'd come up and buy a couple, and then you'd see them 2 weeks later, and they'd come up and buy 8 tyres. They're like, "You guys have the best tyres ever." Normally, they're comparable to a $90, $100 product. They came in a gift box, and we built a following, and nobody bought one tyre because of the way pricing was structured and that sort of thing. And so within a month, we were like, okay, this has got legs. It's easy, which was easy to say at the time because the overheads were effectively just paying ourselves.
Yes. Okay, so proof of concept, you're off to the races. I'm guessing you look Tim in the eye and you go, "We've got to go and get a shop, Timmy. We're onto something here." Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like we had, like a secret formula, like the Coca-Cola or something. I remember saying to him and him saying to me, "Look, let's not tell him about this. Let's not give away our first mover advantage." We genuinely thought we'd invented something, and from there, I think it probably took us 3 or 4 months of solid trading, and we're doing anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 revenue per day with no cost, effectively, because they were casual leases, pay per day kind of thing. Then we had these grand visions of saying, why can't we have it tied up on every corner, every street corner in every city in Australia? People need tyres. We got them. Come get them. So from there, we thought, okay, how do we start selling 1,000 tyres a week instead of 1,000 tyres a month? There's only 2 of us. So we started hiring, as all great businesses do, family friends and brothers' friends, sisters' friends, and that sort of thing, on a casual rate. So we could work on, getting resellers. We'd literally drive around the city, and one of us would jump out, one of us would be driving and walk into a menswear store and say, "We want you to sell our tyres. These are the prices," et cetera, et cetera. And people embraced it. It worked. We'd fly to Sydney and just hit 10 menswear stores, and probably 6 out of 10 would say, "All right, give it to us." And that's a whole separate kind of business concept altogether. I mean, that was actually a bit of a headache as far as payment and that sort of thing goes.
Yeah,
but,
I can imagine.
It did build up, revenue on paper. It's just, payment was a real pain. But anyway, back to the core of the business was we signed 6 retail leases in all the major shopping centres in Melbourne. We almost had one in Sydney, which thank goodness that they pulled out on that. Westfield in Sydney pulled out on that. Otherwise, we would have been stuck for even longer in a city that we didn't live in, kind of thing. So
now, just to be clear, and for overseas listeners, and for those of us who haven't taken a retail lease in a major shopping centre, these things aren't cheap. And from what I hear, the contracts kind of tie you up, excuse the pun, to within an inch of your life.
So, look, without totally being all negative about it, but at the same time telling the truth, is I wouldn't wish a shopping centre lease on anybody, not my worst enemy. I think as far as how naive we were goes, we signed these documents without much legal advice sought, and it was very much a case of here are the director's guarantees. 5 years. Well, they offered 3 years. We're like, no, we're onto such a good thing. We want 5. And I'm not sure to this day, Tim, if retail leases are even higher than what we paid for them in 2007. I think we were close to the top because since then, with online shopping. Well,
it was pre-GFC and, things were rocking along, weren't they? But they came to a sudden halt. What I'm just fascinated. Things, the proverbial does hit the wall, and we'll get to that. But what is going on in your head to think that you got to take these retail leases? Where did the money come from? How are you going to deck these shops out? Were you going to get interior designers? What were you? There are so many unanswered questions that I'm guessing even you hadn't answered.
Absolutely, exactly. So we like the only way I can probably explain it is that at the end of each of these trading days we had, these casual leases, mind you, with zero overhead, we were just, we were like, what do we do with all this money? This is so much money. Like, this is a roaring success. We need to, and we're so bullish that, nobody could have convinced us otherwise. Nobody. And that's I think that's a symptom of, bull markets where, everything's going so well. You don't even consider that things would slow down. Mm-hmm. And at that age, we were 24 and 25 years old as well. I think we were, I guess, what's the word you call it? Young and foolish, and
young and dumb. I think it is, Jeremy.
Yeah, young and dumb. That's exactly what it is. Exactly. And
so you set up. You're trading along. Just give us an idea. Can you remember what the monthly lease was on one of these stores in one of these shopping centres?
I can, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that we paid this much. But one of our smallest stores we had, which was actually one of the best in terms of revenue, was we were paying $80,000 a year for 2.4 meters squared.
That silence is not the phone line dying.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in shock.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and look, from a marketing perspective, so the thing is, we had tried these spots. We had a great try before you buy thing because we had trestle tables in this exact spot beforehand.
Yes.
So from a marketing perspective, I mean, my big takeaway from that era was that our walkthrough traffic was insane. I think the numbers, the shopping centres are very good at measuring numbers and selling the dream to, in terms of foot traffic. And that spot we had, which I won't name the centre, apparently the second highest foot traffic place in all of Melbourne, and the first being Flinders Street Station steps, which is unleasable. So, and look, we certainly saw that. I mean, you don't need to advertise. Your advertising is the rent when you have 100,000 people walking past you every morning. You just have to have the right product and the right market.
So you're trading along. You're selling ties. You're selling. I think you had some other stuff. You had shirts and things, right? Just a few accessories. And come 2008, the GFC hits, and what happens?
So it was almost a perfect storm. It was an interesting time because in the space of, I remember it was probably 3 months. It felt like overnight. Discretionary spending just dropped off a cliff. So our clients were actually about 50-50, even though it's men's accessories. There was a lot of women buying gifts for their partners and brothers and fathers and that sort of thing. But they both dropped off equally. I mean, it's like everyone had tightened their belts and, they decided that ties were certainly not on that necessary, time to get a new tie, discretionary spend list. So combination of people, tightening their belts, and then at the same time, there was certainly a trend towards people just going open collar. It was strange to see, but you used to walk around and everybody in the city would have a tie, and then all of a sudden, maybe 20% would stop wearing a tie, and you think it's not hot enough to not wear a tie. And then next thing you know, around, I reckon between 2008 and 2010, straight after GFC, ties consumption in Australia probably dropped 50%, I reckon, in that period.
How were you? How was your headspace and Tim's headspace?
Well, at the time, we're kind of like, all right, let's just, we've got to ramp it up. We've got to drive revenue. We've got to do specials. We've got to discount. And the funny thing is, I remember that point, we've had a few business mentors over the years, and that's something I'm a big advocate of, actually. But we had a few business mentors. I remember saying to the mentor was, we're pretty much up the creek, and, what can we do? And keeping in mind that everything was legally tight and that sort of thing, tied down, there's not much you can do. I mean, you're literally a sitting duck. You can't get people, you can't necessarily drive people to the store. It's just that's what you're paying for with the lease. So we couldn't do anything. We felt kind of helpless. Shopping centres try to help you, but in quite meaningless ways. By putting, for example, an advertising poster in a lift. But I mean, you don't see any uplift from that, for example. But they say that's charged worth X amount of dollars, but it doesn't really help you. So after a prolonged
did you stay strong mentally?
If I'm being absolutely honest, I tried my best, but there was certainly a period where we were, we discussed, for probably a brief minute about throwing the towel in as far as bankruptcy and that sort of thing goes. We were literally leading thousands of dollars every day across all these stores, and we didn't see an end to it. And at that point, we didn't have any cash reserves where we could just say, okay, we're going to sit this out or anything. It was kind of like, all right, we're up against everything. We're, okay, next up is we're selling our car or whatever to get through it. And it wasn't something that we wanted to talk about, but it was certainly something that we had to consider.
Okay. So come pivot time, it's like you got to make a decision, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And I think, remind me, something happened. Someone walked into the store and, sort of forced that decision?
Yes. So our saviour is a great company known as BMW. We had a marketing manager from BMW come up to one of our stores in Southland, Westfield. And I still remember the call vividly because this marketing manager, I forget her name, she came up to one of our salespeople at the store in Southland and said, look, I'm after 200 tyres for this motor show. And this is also when motor shows are around. And the girl called our office and said, can we do these tyres or should I tell her to go away? I'm like, no. Put her on the phone. We need this. And it was amazing because, she didn't want a discount. She said, 200 tyres, $40. These are great tyres. These are BMW colours. All we need is you can get by the motor show. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, thinking if this lands, and it pretty much it's landed straight away, this will cover our losses for, 3 weeks or a month or whatever the case may be. And surely enough, it did. It was like the only positive news we'd had all year, effectively. And it really got us thinking about how we dig ourselves out of the hole.
Right, because at the point you're going, well, we either close and possibly declare bankruptcy or we actually pivot this business into what is now a promotional products business, right?
Correct, yep.
Pretty good. Mm-hmm. Love a good pivot. Was that a hard decision given that there was another business that you had no experience in and that there was a learning and an investment of time and money, or was it like, hey, bankruptcy isn't an option, we're going to pivot and we're going to go and start another business?
Look, I'd like to say it was a hard decision, but it was kind of like when your back's up against a wall. The initial pivot was really, who do we know who needs tyres? And we caught up both our old schools. We said, you need some tyres. We know you do old boys tyres, whatever the case may be. Buy some of our tyres. And you know what? That's probably the most captive market. It's people people who want to help you, and they're tyre wearers, and they always will be tyre wearers. So we hit some schools and we saw, if we do X amount of schools, then that's going to cover, us for the time being to, keep our head above water.
Interesting. You what you said then, a captive market being people that you know who want to help you. That's when you are in trouble, reaching out to those people and saying, hey, listen, do you say you're in trouble, or do you just know that in reaching out, they're more likely to say yes to you?
I think the interesting thing about schools is, especially if you're alumni somewhere, and that's the same with the university. If you call up a university marketing department and say, hey, I was a student from 2002, let's talk. I mean, they are not going to hang up on you. That's what I kind of mean by, where there's a relationship, as opposed to trying to call, like we obviously don't do any form of cold calling and never have, but if you try to call a company, you won't get past the receptionist, without some sort of link or contact.
Yeah, I've blogged about that. I've spoken about it previously. Getting past the Doberman is a job. It's a scary job. Someone's got to do it, but you need skills.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've pivoted. How did you get out of all the leases at the shopping centres? Did you ride them out, or did you run away, or were the people looking for you? Should I not be interviewing you?
A combination of both. We sought some advice from, I believe he's still around, a guy called the Retail Doctor who, gave us some good advice. And I think our final conclusions, we didn't see out every single one. We maybe cut short a few by a year without penalty. And I think that's, to credit to the shopping centres for, helping where they can, which is not very much. But it's not in their interest to have a struggling retailer either. When they see, someone's trading badly and their product is no longer relevant to the market, then, I think the writing's on the wall. They need to move them on as well.
And as you well know by now, I could not do this show without the support of the wonderful guys at American Express. And if there was one card in their suite of cards that I'd love to draw your attention to, it's their Business Explorer credit card, which is a very, very sexy little beast. Here's why. Up to 55 days interest-free on purchases. Use their money, not yours. That'd be a good idea. You earn up to 2 points for every dollar spent. You can receive 50,000 bonus points if you spend 100K in the first 12 months. That's a bit of dough, but I'm sure some of you could do that with all the business expenses that you have. You get complimentary travel insurance. And you can receive, how's this, a welcome bonus of 100,000 points if you apply by Feb 4 2019 and spend $3,000 within 3 months of your approval date. Pretty good. That's the Business Explorer credit card from American Express. To find out more, all you need to do is Google Amex Business. And guess what? Terms and conditions apply. Check their website for details. I'm Timbo Reid. That is serial entrepreneur Jeremy Chen over there, and you're listening to the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show, thanks to American Express. Jeremy, we've talked about pivoting now. What about grinding it out? You know, what do you say to those listening who are maybe needing to make that decision? Do they grind it out? Do they pivot?
That's really good point. I think there's a few different angles on the whole grinding it out, and I think there's a right time to do it and there's a wrong time to do it. And I'll be the first to admit I have thought about grinding it out and have advocated grinding it out in the wrong context. And that is when our retail business was failing, Tim, my business partner, was the one who said, okay, this is a sinking ship. We need to, look at the promotion side of, start selling to schools, start selling to corporates. And I remember thinking, you know what, we're selling, say, $500 a day. If we only got up to $800 a day, for example, we'll cover our costs, we'll be fine. But I was determined that we could grind it out, we could discount, we could make it work. And I still remember kind of arguing that point a lot. Mm-hmm. But, fortunately enough, I was convinced that, the grass was really green on the other side. So I think grinding it out on something which a flawed business concept is never going to work. Conversely, I think in my current business, we really do grind it out as far as with our sales team, with our processes, with our leads and accounts. I think a lot of people look for the quick fix and silver bullet when it comes to, what they call them, the easy wins, the quick wins when it comes to sales and marketing, that sort of thing. And I think there are those out there, but quite often, it's just persistence. It's staying front of mind. It's emailing. It's having your EDMs going out frequently. It's being relevant, having the right product at the right time, and just I don't think there's necessarily anything exciting about staying front of mind, but that's what's going to be get you the sales at the end of the day.
Well, I would argue that. I would say that it is exciting. I mean, it's your business. It's your baby. You want people you want to be on the top of that shopping list in front of mind when someone does, in your case right now, need a promotional product. I think, I guess that's why I love marketing, because there's the challenge of constantly trying to be there in what is a very crowded marketplace. It doesn't matter whether you're a vet or a promotional products agency. It's just busy, right? There's no shortage of either.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage anyone listening to make it a hobby of staying front and centre and getting on that shopping list. And whether it be, a weekly EDM through something like MailChimp, or whether you can afford to run some ads on Google, or whether you're doing a podcast, I don't know. But I think therein lies the challenge. And you're a creative guy. I mean, that's the fun of business, surely.
Yes, definitely. And look, I don't underestimate the creative side. I'm sure with some really great social media marketing, you can stimulate the right interest for the right market, that sort of thing. I just feel that quite often people think you can pay a social media or Instagram influencer X thousands of dollars, and then you'll be the next success story. But what I would add to that is you can do that, but depending on your market, you need someone still pounding the pavement and doing the legwork.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, wrapping things up, BePromotive is your current business. It must be now. Gee, I'm going to guess it's probably about 10 years old.
Yeah, it's coming up to that. Yeah,
it's going okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What makes it go okay? Because I've spoken to Clive, a previous guest on this show, Clive McCormick from Arizona, who owns a promotional products business. Mm-hmm. They do some interesting stuff. I've got a pretty clear idea. I speak at a lot of conferences. I see a lot of promotional products. There's some bad stuff out there. How have you managed to keep going for almost 10 years?
Good question. I wouldn't put it down to one particular thing. I would. I think I've mentioned before that what we do, we don't reinvent the wheel. There's nothing, especially revolutionary about what we do. We are literally just trying to provide everything an easier way for the client to promote their brand through branded merchandise. And for us, that involves curating really good promotional products. So it's very, almost anyone can tell you that most websites you go to will say, hey, we have over 10,000 products online. People, we find, aren't interested in 10,000 products. I mean, that's a good throwaway line, but people just want the best product that suits them. So we try to curate exactly what's hot, what's good at the moment, what's retail worthy, and make it easy for them to find. I mean, half the equation, almost more important than price, is just finding quickly and easily what would suit your market. And people don't have time to search through 10,000 products. The best search in the world doesn't help. People want things, delivered on a platter to them. And on the delivery side, having everything, delivered in a timely fashion with, good customer service, speedy responses, that sort of thing. Just the fundamentals. We just try to keep everything simple.
It's been the year of, what was it called? Was it the fidget spinner or the, what was that thing?
Yeah, it was literally, look, we did have those at some point, but I can't say
what's next year's?
That's a good question. I think the health and fitness, well-being space is still certainly, the one to watch, especially going to summer. Yep. Hydration, there's some great brands out there that do water with timings on it, how much water you should be drinking daily and that sort of thing. And just everyone's just a lot more health and fitness oriented.
Maybe a gluten-free vegan stress ball or something like that.
Exactly. Vegan leather, yeah.
Hey, Jeremy, thank you, buddy. Thanks for sharing it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for you. I think I'll give you a ring in 10 years' time to see how many other businesses you've started and closed and started again. So
I look forward to that chat.
Well done, mate. BePromotive.com.au is where you'll find Jeremy these days. Thanks, mate.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Tim.
Well, there you go, team. Serial entrepreneur and almost Australia's first smoking monkey retailer, Jeremy Chen. Smoking monkeys, my goodness. I don't know whether they would have taken off. Hey, be sure to hang around after my top 3 attention grabbers as I am about to announce this year's winner of the Monster Prize Draw, who wins in excess of $3,000 worth of prizes. But first, my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Jeremy, thanks to our good mates at Design Crowd and American Express. Attention grabber number 1. I simply love Jeremy's attitude towards pivoting or grinding it out. Sometimes you got to pivot. Sometimes you just got to go, you know what? This isn't working. We've got to make a small change. And Jeremy did that, and look where he's at now. Or grind it out. Just kind of head down, bum up, and see where that takes you. Hard decision, but a good one. Attention grabber number 2. Jeremy's idea of approaching his captive market when things were tight, I think, is really clever thinking. Those people who already know you and want to help you out, the low-hanging fruit. So if you're doing it tough right now, maybe reach out to your low-hanging fruit. Attention grabber number 3. Heading to the Canton Fair was a great decision despite not knowing what he was going there for. Yet it certainly paid off. Sometimes we've just got to bite the bullet, get out of our comfort zone, because guess what? That's where the magic happens. Well, that's what grabbed my attention. Would love to know what grabbed yours. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/442 and let me know.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Well, it is time to announce the 2018 winner of the Monster Prize Draw. In case you have been living under a rock, maybe it's your first time listening to this show. Over the course of this year, I have been reading emails from listeners who have told me an idea that they've implemented from listening to this show and what impact it's had on their business. And at the end of the year, which is now, I said I would announce the winner, who would win, amongst other things, a $2,500 hot lap with 4-time Bathurst winner and past guest of this show, Steve Richards, in a racing Porsche, plus a bucket load of other prizes, which you're about to hear what they are shortly. But right now, let's go and find out who the winner of the 2018 Monster Prize Draw is. Hey, is that Lindsay Marsh from Sow to Grow?
Yes, it's me.
Lindsay, it's Timbo Reid here from the Small Business Big Marketing Show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so good. I'm so nervous. I've been thinking, since I got your email, I'm like, what's he going to say?
I love it. I love that nervousness. Do you have any idea why I'm calling you?
I thought you were going to quiz me, and I was like, maybe I should re-listen to all 400 and something episodes so I know the quiz.
That's a good thing. That would be good for my downloads. But here's the thing, Lindsay. You wrote me a lovely email earlier this year identifying some things that you'd applied from listening to this show for a segment called the Monster Prize Draw. Do you remember that?
Yes, and I received some lovely gifts, yes.
Good. Well, you're going to get more because you've won the entire 2018 Monster Prize Draw. Which you may not even know what that means, but what it does mean is you have won a lot of really cool prizes that have been donated by past guests, and the major one, are you ready for it? It's a hot lap in a racing Porsche with 5 times Bathurst champion Steve Richards, and you go about 300 kilometres an hour. And that's valued at $2,500, so that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. My husband's going to be heaps jealous.
Well, I was going to say you could take him along. You could probably take him along and he can watch you.
And you can watch, I can wave. I'll wave as I go by.
Yeah, correct. Hey, but here's what else you've won, Lindsay. 2 lounge passes to the American Express Lounge at Melbourne or Sydney International Airport, $66, or an Orbit key, valued at $50. The list keeps going. 2 pairs of men's novelty socks for your husband. That's valued at $18, thanks to Matt at Put a Sock on It. A Basin Essentials pack from Saya Skincare. That's $79. 2 My DNA test kits. That'll help you identify things around your diet and your fitness, which I think we all need. That's $200. 8 canisters of yummy potato chips from the Good Chris Company. 6 packs of Mr. Lee's Hong Kong street beef noodles. A hamper from Ben's Bees. And the best thing of all, another link for you on the Small Business Big Marketing site, and that's valued at over $3,000.
Whoa! Oh, I'm just like, if you see my face, it's really red right now.
Well, Lindsay, well done to you. Can you remember some of the things that you applied from the show were fantastic? Can you remember any of them?
Oh gosh, I've applied so many things. I guess the biggest one was generating an email list and, building my tribe and the people who follow me and being really connected to them, and also just freaking do it, which was, I think, Michelle Bridges said. Yeah, that was the biggest one, was all these things that were holding me back because I was such a perfectionist. And I thought, just do it. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. Just go home and sort it out and do it. And I've grown from there. Yeah, a lot of what I do is because I listened to your show and it gave me confidence to go out there and do it.
Well, I think you're awesome, Lindsay. You're one of the reasons, people like you are one of the reasons I do my show. Not one of, it's the reason why I do my show. Small business owners doing big marketing and having an absolute crack. And I think the Sow to Grow website is just a great example of someone who's taken all those ideas and applied them. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for us in the community. It's wonderful to have somebody like you to be in our ears coaching us every day.
Absolute pleasure. Well, Merry Christmas to you. Enjoy that hot lap.
Oh, it's going to be.
I may be there, depending on timing, but we'll be in touch on the email with all the details of how all those prices are going to get to you, all right? So well done, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Oh, I love a happy listener. Well done, Lindsay Marsh. Sow to Grow is her business, SEW, to grow. .com.au. That is a wonderful outcome. Happy listener. Now, the Monster Prize Draw is continuing next year. It'll start again in January. All you need to do is email me, tim@timreid.com.au, telling me one idea you've implemented from listening to this show and what impact it's had on your business. If I read it out on air, you win a prize or 3 and go into the draw to win a big prize at the end of the year, which I haven't quite decided on what that is just yet, but I can assure you it'll be a ripper. Righto, it's time for the advertising jingle of the week. This one dates all the way back to 1978 and launched Kerry Packer's Rebel cricket competition that we all know now as World Series cricket. Back then it was very, very controversial. Now, this jingle was so popular that it actually got released as a jingle for radio play and topped the charts for 2 weeks in February 1978, going double platinum. It's pretty impressive. I mean, how many jingles can claim going double platinum and being released for radio? Personally, I love this jingle. It's probably my favourite that I've played all year. It brings back memories of long, hot summers, of school holidays, and from streakers running across the cricket field. That doesn't happen as much anymore. But that was part of Aussie cricket back then, having the odd streaker. Anyway, I digress. Here's the jingle.
You've been training all the winter, and there's not a team that's fitter, and that's the way it's got to be. 'Cause you're up against the best, you know. This is super test, you know, and you've got to beat the best the world has seen. Lily's pounding down like a machine. Pascoe's making divots in the green. Marsh is taking wickets. Hooks he's clearing pickets. And the Chapel's eyes have got that killer gleam. Mr. Walker's playing havoc with the bats. Redpath, it's good to see you back. Lady's making runs. Dougie's chewing gum. And Gilmore's wielding willow like an axe. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
I love that jingle. I hope it stays in your head for a while. It's just one that brings back so many wonderful memories. You can watch the actual ad over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/442. That almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, sponsored by American Express and Design Crowd. Remember, you can search Amex Business to find out how your business expenses can reward you, and visit designcrowd.com/Timbo to get $100 off your design brief. You will love me forever, I'm sure, once you've used it. Got some great interviews coming up, including a chat with a full-time mum that's found herself creating joy for kids all over the world with a life-size doll. A fellow whose little pizzeria in Brisbane has found itself at the top of Uber Eats. No mean feat. And a raunchy chat with a couple who, according to them, organise the best hens parties going around. He's the male stripper. She runs the business. Don't forget there's an entire back catalogue of interviews over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. If you love the show, and why wouldn't you, grab another business owner's phone, hit the podcast button, or app I should say, download the show for them, hit play, run away, do it again once a day. Love you forever. Until next week, I am Timbo Reid. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.